Hey there. So I got Mr. Juno out here with me. I was getting a few messages and emails regarding my long lines, the dynamic leash long lines, and comparison to some other long lines out there. And so I just kind of wanted to give you how this long line came about, how it evolved. So this is the I used to use these long lines years ago. I just refer to them as a static line. So they have a clasp on here. Not sure what kind of metal that is. Could be a zinc, like a zinc die cast or something. I used to live down at the beach, and I can see it's pretty eroded, and it's chipping off. Whatever the coating on here is chipping off. But at any rate, so this is a very what I refer to as a static line. So what I mean by that, in like the climbing world, there's two types of ropes. There's a dynamic rope, that's the one you want to climb on, and then there's a static line. The dynamic rope, when you fall and you hit the end of that line, hit the end of that rope, there's give to it. There's an absorption of energy, so your fall is softer, right? But if you fall on a static line, it's not going to feel too good, and depending on how long the fall is, it can do some serious damage. So what I found is that I wanted something, and so I didn't have to keep finding, like I had to get a martingale, and I had to fit the dog with the martingale, and then I had to clip him into this. So I wanted something that was more streamlined, quicker, kind of an all-in-one thing. But I also wanted something that had some give to it. So this is how I, came about the dynamic lead. This is how this long line is built. So there's an inner core that's woven together, and then there's this outer mantle or sheath that covers that core. Well, this core is what has an absorption quality to it. So what I found is that when the dogs would bolt, they would hit the end of it, then it would soften that hit when they got to the end of the line, not only on the dog, but on the handler. So that's where the term dynamic came from, right? So basically it's a 15-foot slip lead. So now you go back into the slip lead market, and you kind of have to look at, there's a lot of ways that you can terminate the rope when you're making the head loop and hand loop. So here's kind of one way that the rope gets terminated. It's brought together, and then they're using this sort of nylon material, and then they're stitching it together, so it kind of creates a loop. So they do it, that's for the hand, they do it here for the head, right? Here's an example of an old leash a client left me, and you can see that the covering came off of this. So there's this little cover that goes over the stitching, right? And this is what you'll see in some other leashes where they use a metal swedge. So they bring the rope together, like you can see here, and they stitched it. But the metal swedging, they'll bring it together and they'll swedge metal here, and then they'll cover it with a polyolefin heat shrinking, and it shrinks around that metal. That polyolefin sleeve over time will kind of degrade and wear off, and then you're left with kind of like this, exposed stitching or exposed metal. And so the stoppers on some of these leashes out there too, or this one has kind of looks like a leather stopper with a rivet in it, and it's kind of a thin leather. This one has a plastic sort of spring-loaded stopper, which can definitely break or give out, and then basically this leash is non-functional, right? So here's the dynamic lead. This is one of our new colors that we're going to be introducing. So on the rope termination, you can see that we're using like this really intricate knot, right? There's basically nothing covering it. You actually see what the termination is underneath. So it's not hidden underneath like a nylon or hidden underneath a polyolefin sleeve. The stopper is a thick, we're using like really thick leather with rivet, brass rivet. And the ring up on the head loop is an all solid brass ring. It's the same for the backups that I use for my leashes. They're all solid brass. So I've seen some long lines that they'll actually thread the line back through the rope and create the head loop that way. So the problem I saw with that when I was playing with them is that rope on rope creates some friction, so the movement of the rope back and forth isn't as smooth. And then there's just different metals out there that people will use as opposed to like a solid brass ring. There might be a zinc die cast or something of that nature, So anyway, so that's just kind of the difference between, a lot of the long lines out there. But, if you haven't had one of these in your hand, I suggest going and getting online and picking one up. And right now you can use discount code of 15% off. Discount code is ThankYou15 for everybody that was a part of helping us decide on our four new colors in the Instagram poll and in our email survey. So check it out. ThankYou15 for a 15% discount on leashes and long line at the Dynamic Lead. Thanks for watching.